să venim aici repede și cu toții să cântăm bunătatea lui Dumnezeu, Cel care este bun în fiecare zi cu noi.
Eu te iubesc, mila ta e nesfârșită, zi de zi tu mă ții în mâna ta. Din zorii dimineții și până când ador, vreau să cânt bunătatea ta. Căci tu mereu ai fost cu mine, tu mereu ai fost atât de bun. Și cât eu voi avea suflare, vreau să cânt bunătatea ta. Cu vocea ta m-ai condus prin încercare și noaptea grea, lângă mine tu ai fost. Noi te avem ca tată, te știm ca prieten bun. Am trăit în bunătatea ta. Căci tu mereu ai fost cu mine, tu mereu ai fost atât de bun. Și cât eu voi avea suflare, vreau să cânt bunătatea ta. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta. Mă aplec acum, ție mă închid, cu totul mă preda. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta. Mă aplec acum, ție mă închid, cu totul mă preda. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta. Iisus, mă copleșești cu bunătatea ta.
Și cântăm și în engleză bunătatea lui Dumnezeu.
And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Și împreună cu toții
And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God.
I will sing.
I will sing of the goodness of God. Ești ai jertfit în locul meu, vrednic e al tău nume.
Toată slava și gloria este a Domnului nostru.
Slava e a ta, toată gloria, numai ție ne închinăm.
Peste noi ești Domn.
Peste noi ești Domn, noi te înălțăm, tu rămâi în veci pe tron. Acel ce-ai fost, ești și vei fi, Domn în orice vreme. În veci pe tron, cel înălțat, sfânt doar tu ești rege. Slava e a ta, toată gloria, numai ție ne închinăm. Peste noi ești Domn, noi te înălțăm, tu rămâi în veci pe tron. Tu rămâi, Iisus, pe tron.
Și toată gloria dăm Domnului nostru. Glorie în veci.
Glorie în veci ne închinăm, vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia. Glorie în veci ne închinăm, vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia. Glorie în veci ne închinăm, vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia. Glorie în veci ne închinăm, vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia. Glorie în veci ne închinăm, vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia. Aleluia. Vrednic este mielul sfânt, aleluia.
And the praise is yours.
And the praise is yours, and the praise is yours. You're the one we bow before, reigning over us as we lift you up. You will reign forevermore.
Iisus Hristos domnește peste tot și toate. Și vom încheia tot cu un cântec care vorbește tot despre domnia lui Iisus Hristos. Domnește în veci.
Domnești în veci, domnești în veci de veci, peste viața mea și peste univers, nimeni ca tine nu. Iisus, domnești în veci de veci. Pe cruce ți-ai sfârșit lucrarea, Doamne, viața ți-ai dat ca să avem viață în dar. Acum iertați putem să spunem, Tu ești viu, Domnul meu, doar Ție îți cântăm. Iisus, domnești în veci, domnești în veci de veci, peste viața mea și peste univers, nimeni ca tine nu. Iisus, domnești în veci de veci, îți cântă cerul și pământul numele. Veșnic îți vom cânta, Iisus, aleluia, nu-i nume ca al tău. Iisus, domnești în veci de veci, domnești în veci de veci. Răul nu-ți stă în cale, mormântul este gol, ești înălțat în slavă și în veci rămâi pe tron. Răul nu-ți stă în cale, mormântul este gol, ești înălțat în slavă și în veci rămâi pe tron.
Răul nu stă în cale.
Răul nu stă în cale, mormântul este gol, ești înălțat în slavă și în veci rămâi pe tron. Răul nu stă în cale, mormântul este gol, ești înălțat în slavă și în veci rămâi pe tron. You reign above it all, you reign above it all, over the universe and over every heart. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all.
Amin. Iisus Hristos domnește peste toți.
Amin. Iisus a dezbrăcat pe sine însuși și a luat un chip de rob făcându-se asemenea oamenilor. La înfățișare a fost găsit ca un om. S-a smerit și s-a făcut ascultător până la moarte și încă moarte de cruce. De aceea și Dumnezeu l-a înălțat nespus de mult și i-a dat numele care este mai presus de orice nume, pentru ca în numele lui Iisus să se plece orice genunchi al celor din ceruri, de pe pământ și de sub pământ, și orice limbă să mărturisească spre slava lui Dumnezeu Tatăl, căci Hristos este Domnul. Amin. Haideți să ne rugăm Domnului. Ne închinăm înaintea Ta, Dumnezeul nostru, și îți mulțumim frumos pentru această zi. Mulțumim, Doamne, pentru căci putem să stăm din nou în jurul cuvântului Tău. Mulțumim, Doamne, căci ai pregătit această zi atât de minunat pentru noi. Mulțumim pentru mesajele care le primim. Mulțumim, Doamne, pentru frații care ne-au vestit aceste mesaje. Mulțumim, Doamne, pentru cântările care putem să le înălțăm spre slava și gloria numelui Tău. Mai mult ca atât dorim să-ți mulțumim pentru Domnul Iisus Hristos, care a lăsat slava cerului, a luat chip de rob și a venit să locuiască printre noi. Mulțumim, Doamne, pentru jertfa Lui, pentru moartea Lui de pe cruce. Mulțumim, Doamne, căci astăzi este viu și stă la dreapta Ta. El este Domnul nostru, El este Mântuitorul nostru. De aceea în această zi dorim ca să glorificăm numele Tău pentru tot ceea ce ai făcut pentru noi. Mulțumim pentru mântuirea care am primit-o în dar și mulțumim, Doamne, pentru că ce ai făcut din noi o preoție aleasă. Ne-ai adus la viață, ne-ai înviat împreună cu Domnul Iisus Hristos și ne-ai dat această nădejde vie, căci într-o zi vom fi cu El în veșnicie. Doamne, te rugăm frumos ca să fii în continuare aceste zile cu noi, binecuvintează cuvântul Tău în continuare în inimile noastre, binecuvintează cei care Te vor sluji în această zi, folosește-te de ei ca de niște instrumente în mâna Ta prin care să-ți transmiți mesajul Tău către poporul Tău. Fie numele Tău lăudat și binecuvântat pentru toate în veci. Amin. Vă rog să ocupați locurile, continuăm conferința noastră de astăzi și intrăm în a doua sesiune care va fi condusă de fratele Vlad Cristnic. Fratele Vlad vine din România special cu această ocazie și ne rugăm ca Domnul să-l binecuvinteze. După încheierea acestei sesiuni vom intra direct în a treia sesiune care va fi din întrebări și răspunsuri. Vă rog frumos ca să pregătiți între timp întrebările care le aveți ca la această sesiune să le putem adresa. Fratele Vlad.
Pace și bună dimineața! Bună seara pentru unii! Pentru mine e seara târziu, aseară am ajuns din România, însă mă bucur că în sfârșit am reușit să ajung în zona asta, Seattle, Tacoma, cunoscută pentru ploaie, cafea și left-wing politics. Așa se vede din România, nu știu cum se vede de aici, însă astea sunt lucrurile pe care le știu din România despre zona asta. Da, rămânem la cafea? Perfect. Mă bucur să fiu cu voi în dimineața asta și promit că nu o să fac foarte multe greșeli de gramatică și de accent, însă ca să fiu sigur că toți înțelegeți ce vreau să vorbesc, o să I'll do my best English, ok? Așa cum ați înțeles, trăiesc în România, am fost educat în România, locuiesc în România, slujesc în România, însă deseori când vin în America îmi dau seama că generația mai tânără apreciază o engleză mai slabă decât o română mai bună, corect? Nu sunt foarte sigur. Dar o să vedem noi ce iese până la sfârșit. Dar aș vrea să pot să intru în dialog cu glumele voastre ca să putem să mergem mai departe. Dar în dimineața asta aș vrea să mergem mai departe cu tema conferinței pe care, așa cum știți, Burning Questions, Kind Answers. Why did we come up with this topic? Why did we choose such a title for such a conference? It is based on 1 Peter 3:15, which I will read again, and then I want to just make a few short points in order to set the stage for the next topic, okay? So 1 Peter 3:15 says, "But in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience." So firstly, the Lordship of Christ needs to be settled as a factor in our lives. So we may discuss apologetics, we may discuss evangelism, as long as Jesus Christ is not set apart in our lives, there's not much we can do further than just discussing. Do you agree with this? I hope you do. Because otherwise, everything that we do here is just a pure conversation and not much preaching. So we have to make sure that Jesus Christ is Lord of our lives, so that whatever we say about Jesus Christ is evangelism and not just conversations. Secondly, the context of the command that I've just read is one of holiness. So why would anyone ask you any questions about your faith if that faith is not obvious in the way that you live? So holiness is what makes you distinct from anything else that happens around you. Do you agree with this? So this is what makes it valuable when you start speaking about Jesus Christ, because it is shown in your life as making you different. Thirdly, we must remember that the letter of 1 Peter is addressed to the church. So many of you have the conception that apologetics and evangelism is for professionals. Because this is how we Romanians treat evangelism. We usually invite someone from Romania or from a different church to speak evangelistically in our church, and that's what we call evangelism. And it is. But it's not the only form of evangelism. Because Matthew makes it very clear that we are all invited to actually make and do evangelism. It's not just for the pastors, it's not just for the evangelists. We all have to do evangelism, although we don't always have the gift of evangelism. Two very distinct matters. Fourthly, there is a need to be prepared. So what does the Bible say? Always be prepared to give an answer. So preparation is just as important as everything else in the context of apologetics and evangelism. Many of us, we think that evangelism and apologetics comes naturally. It doesn't. You have to get ready to be able to speak fluently and speak intelligently about the issues at stake. And you'll see how this unfolds immediately. Fifthly, the apostle talks of giving an answer for the reason, for the hope that we have. The question is our hope visible? And this is not a rhetorical question. How is your hope visible to your colleagues and your friends? And this is open for discussion. Anyone? Okay, let me ask you differently. What is the hope that you had when you woke up in the morning? What was the first hope that you had?
That I would be raptured.
The what?
That I would be raptured.
Okay, that's very Christian. Very proper answer. It is in the church, so thank you. What else? I'll tell you what my hope was. Firstly, when I went to bed, I was hoping I would sleep longer than just 3-4 hours. And then when I opened my eyes, my hope was that I'll know how the shower works. Every time you go when you come to the US, you're not necessarily sure that you know how to handle the showers. So that was my hope, honestly. I didn't wake up and I said, oh, Lord Jesus, please, I hope today will be a good day. No, I was hoping I know how to start the shower. But secondly, my hope was that everyone is well at home. And then thirdly, I was hoping I'll know how to start a coffee machine. But this is not a joke. You see, the Bible says that we have to be ready to speak about the hope that we have. But we don't necessarily think about that hope very often. Why? Because we have to be prepared to speak about the hope that we have. Colossians speaks of, there's a command that says, think about the things above. My question is, how often do we think about the things above? And my guess is not very often. Sixthly, given the lordship of Christ in our lives is the starting point for given apologetic, the cross is where we are all heading with our conversations. So the question is, when you have a certain question about how do we know the Bible is true, how do we understand a good God given all the suffering in the world, whatever question is, in your answer you have to encapsulate the cross. So your conversation, your evangelism, in order to be evangelism, has to take you to the cross. Otherwise, it's not evangelism, because the cross speaks of the sin and the forgiveness without which there is no evangelism. And seventhly, our attitude is vital. What does the Bible say? But do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience. I'm not sure how aware you are of the conversations on Facebook, on Calvinism, Arminianism, and so on. That's not gentleness and respect, let me tell you that. And we might be very tempted to discuss in not necessarily a gentle manner. We have to change that. Now, burning questions, kind answers. In order to set the stage for the next question and the topic that I'd like to address, let me reintroduce myself, and then we'll discuss the manner I chose to introduce myself. And you have to pay attention to this. Hi, my name is Vlad. I use the pronouns he, him, and I am the parent of 4 children, 1 biological boy and 3 biological girls. They still identify as such. Do you agree with this presentation? What caught your attention? What wasn't necessarily appealing to you? You have to speak loud so I can hear. The fact that I mentioned the pronouns that I use, was it normal or not? Yes or no? Why not? Because I'm in church, or because you don't do this, or why not? Okay, because Vlad is a boy and it's already understood the pronouns that I use. Okay, so you assume that I'm a boy. Is it evident? I chose the right clothes, right? But so you might be laughing, but your colleagues, let me tell you that, your colleagues are not laughing at matters like these. So where is your gentleness and respect towards them when you laugh at matters such as these? Do you follow? So is it normal, or isn't it normal to use this sort of introduction? Hi, my name is, and I use such and such a pronoun. And this is not a trap question. So for us Christians, this is not normal. Okay, but is it normal for the culture you live in? Yes. So how do we work around this topic with gentleness and respect in order to bring the people we discuss with to the cross of Jesus with gentleness and respect in order to win some for Jesus? So this is the question. Înțelepciunea de la Dumnezeu, it's an easy answer. This is an easy answer. But you didn't fly me from Romania to give you the easy answer, right? So I use the pronouns he, him, and this is the first thing. Secondly, what was problematic? I'll reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Vlad. I use the pronouns he, him, and I am the parent. Why not the father? Why do I need to make sure that I use the word parent and not father in such a culture as this, West Coast America? Pardon? There's not always, which is different from there's not necessary a father. Okay? Because a missing father is one thing, but 2 mothers is a different thing. Correct? So, me being the parent and not the father doesn't mean that the father is absent. It only means that we identify as parents, so no one is offended by the fact that I'm a white male father. Do you follow? This is rarely spoken about from a church pulpit. But this is what gets you ready to live as a Christian Monday to Saturday where you work and where you study. So, parent. And I am the parent of 4 children. 1, what was the word? Biological boy, and 3 biological girls. So what's wrong with this? Pardon? You have to speak louder so that we all hear. The word biological, what's wrong with it?
It may not be yours biologically.
That's not what I meant. They were born as boys and girls, and I cleared it with the 4th word, which said they still identify as such, right? Because you most likely have colleagues, friends, classmates, which appear to be boys and girls, but they identify as different, right? And this is what you are being taught, and you are being encouraged to encourage, and you are being invited to applaud, not just accept. And you know the lives that you have to live once you get outside of this church and once you leave the house of your family. You have to actually navigate through these 4, maybe unimportant issues, yet very, very difficult issues to navigate through. So why is this necessary? Why is it necessary to make those additions to our self-identification nowadays? Because this is what is normal. This is what the culture claims to be normal, and when you don't comply with them, you are not abnormal, but you are what? Extremist, Republican. Oh, was that wrong? What else? Christian, maybe? Pardon? Racist, bigot, homophobic, terrorist. So do you think that 1 Peter 3:15 is applicable to this situation? Always be ready to give an answer. How do we give an answer to this specific issue? And I think this is probably the most difficult issue that we have to navigate with these days. It's not the suffering, it's not anything which apologetics offered in the past. It is important, but I think this is the most difficult nowadays. So in order to answer this topic, in order to actually understand it, we have to answer the first question: what is normal? How do we define normal? This is where we should start from. So let me give you an illustration. Finding counterfeit dollar bills is an interesting job. Yet the experts on the true dollar bills are only allowed to touch the true dollar bills. Did you know that? In order to spot the counterfeit bills, they have to know exactly how the true dollar bill looks and feels. So, taking that further, we have to focus on what true normal is in order to spot and debate what wrong normal is. Therefore, what is normal? Normal comes from the Latin word norma, which refers to a carpenter's square, a T-square, building off the Latin normal first meant perpendicular or at right angles. So you probably have seen that tool is a 90-degree angle, and you put it at the bottom of the building, and you would say whether that's normal or not. So normal meant right, a right angle. Conforming to a standard, usual, typical, expected, traditional, usual, ordinary, customary, conventional, habitual, accustomed, expected, everyday, regular, routine, day-to-day, daily, established, fixed. And I'll come back to one word: traditional. The usual, average, a typical state or condition. Now, if normal is the standard by which we conclude that the building is rightly built, what is our normal today? What is our dictionary? What's the standard? What's the right angle? Could we agree that it's the Bible? That's why we started today's conference with the topic that we started with. Because we have to understand how to defend the Bible. We have to understand how do we open a discussion and conclude a discussion based on the Bible without knowing how to defend the Bible. So we have to understand why the Bible is true, how do we defend it in order to go further. So because several arguments are based on the Bible. And we have to know how to defend the Bible. Now, if the Bible is our normal, let's go and look at how the Bible sees the issues that I just opened up with when I introduced myself. sexuality, and homosexuality, which are very hot topics, burning questions to which we have to offer kind answers. So would you open with me in Genesis 1:1, and then we'll go and read a few other verses in Genesis as well. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the key word in there is God, and the second key word is God created. And we'll debate it and unfold it in a minute. Then verse 26 says, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. That cannot be repeated too often. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves over the ground. So the Bible defines what normal is, and normal is the statement which should be in the lines of the following words. I'll repeat that. The normal, when it comes to male and female, the phrase we should learn and to which we should actually come back to is the following. We believe in God's design for male and female. Now, to the introduction that I just gave you about myself, the short answer is we believe in God's design for male and female. This is exactly what I'd love you to live with from here. This is what we believe. We believe in God's design for male and female. And that short phrase encapsulates everything that I like you to know about the topic today. So we has to be unpacked. What do we mean by we? We, when we say we, it is the community of believers since creation to nowadays. When we say that we believe in God's design for male and female, we actually mean that every single person that lived since creation to nowadays, which is the community of believers, God's creation, the community of believers being the church. So, fața cealaltă a monedei, however you say that in English, o biserică adevărată, a true church will always believe that. God's design for male and female. If they believe differently, go away from that church. So we are God's creation, we are community, we are the church. We used to be the majority. And we act as a body. If one suffers, we all suffer. So if in this community here, someone suffers because of their understanding of God's design for male and female, we should all suffer. And we should all pray for that person. And we should all help that person navigate through those difficulties. Now that's we. We believe. What do we say when we say we believe? How do we define belief? Any guesses? Any ideas? Ok, Evrei 11 spune, da, și credința este o încredere neclintită în lucrurile care nu se văd. Evrei 11 zice, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commanded for. By faith, verse 3, Hebrews 11:3. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made of what was visible. Okay? So that makes me understand that belief is a foundation for the way that I understand this world. By faith I understand that God created. By faith I understand God's design. By faith I understand God's purpose for male and female and so on. Okay. Thirdly, we believe God's design. What do we mean by God's design? If it's God's design, it is determinative as he determines what he wants. And this is one of the problems that this world has with God. They don't understand God as the Creator and God as Lord. And if you don't understand God as Creator and Lord, you don't see that there is a purpose, defined purpose in the way God understood and created this world. Now, fourthly, we believe in God's design for male and female. What do we mean by male and female? As determined as creation, by creation, for creation. I'll repeat that. Male and female as determined at creation, by creation, for creation. Genesis 1 shows creation in general. Genesis 2 shows creation of male and female with a purpose, which is to reproduce. And then all this goes further to verse 23. Let me read that again. Genesis 1:23. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She will be called woman, for she was taken out of man. This is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united with his wife, and they become one flesh." Genesis 2, not Genesis 1. Let me point out that man and woman were created and determined by God with a very specific purpose. This is why men and female, male and female, they are complementary. They have to complement each other, which creates and leads to that most profound unity between them in order to reproduce. That's the purpose of creation. Recreation, reproduction, okay? This is objective and real, palpable, functional, desirable union for all generation. It is a model and a pattern for all generation to come. Now, this is where this culture twisted this understanding of creation in order to not necessarily function because of the purpose of creation, but because of the pleasures of culture. This is where we are now at. This union between male and female is supposed to be physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual, and should only happen with one partner as designed by God. This has to be understood, and this has to be defended. This is where apologetics kicks in. I've heard an illustration that says sexuality is like a post-it note. You know post-it notes? The more you use it on different surfaces, the less sticky it becomes. It should only be used with one surface, one partner. Therefore, human marriage is created to reflect God's nature and purpose. The one flesh union is designed with the purpose of fulfilling God's command to be fruitful and multiply. And marriage is not only meant to reflect God's nature, but also His grace in that God shows to His people in Christ, the church and God. Now, this leads me to the question that I'm actually trying to address here. Where does homosexuality and transgenderism fit into all this? Because this is what hits you hard when you go to school. This is what they are trying to educate you in, to accept such things. And this is to be the new normal. If normal as biblical is twisted, we arrive to that which is now the new normal. Why the new normal? Why isn't biblical normal no longer enough? Let me give you an answer. 2 Timothy 3. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of, of God. This is where we are now at. These are the last days. Terrible times in the last days, as 2 Timothy words it. Now let's unpack this. Let me give you a sentence to which you have to answer with true or false, okay? I'll read the next sentence and you have to say this is true or this is false. The Twin Towers that fell at 9/11 fell because of gravity. True or false? Okay, let's give it a vote. So the twin towers that fell at 9/11 fell because of gravity, true? False? Okay, whoever didn't raise their hands didn't understand the question, maybe. So gravity explains it, right? Okay, one answer, gravity. Gravity offers an explanation, a physical explanation, whereas something else offers the explanation of the event itself. Do you understand that? It's a very, very distinct nuance. So gravity offers explanations of the physical event, but nothing more than that. Some of you were not born there, but that's a different story. Now let me ask you this question. Homosexuality and transgenderism are the result of sin, true or false? This is in the very same line of the other phrase. Sin explains every deviation. Sin explains every disease. Sin explains every suffering. But is that the only explanation? So let's start. Let me try to give you a few explanations for that last phrase. Firstly, homosexuality was first plausible, meaning possible. Do you know of Bible verses where homosexuality was present? Do you know how many times the Bible speaks about homosexuality? It's 5 times. 5 times the Bible explains homosexuality and shows it as present in the Old Testament and New Testament days. But what happened is that homosexuality now became normative. Did you catch that? Normative. Is not only plausible, is not only possible, but now it's normative. It has to be accepted, it has to be even encouraged and applauded. Now, in order to understand that, we have to understand that homosexuality and transgenderism are symptoms of a greater disease. And you never treat symptoms in isolation. You never do that. You have to see all the symptoms in order to have a specific disease that you treat. Now, 4 symptoms of why are we here today discussing this topic exactly. First of all, sexual revolution. Sexual revolution is what got us where we are now. What do I mean by that? First of all, it's not that people use sex, but they do so by involving the abolition of any moral codes. What do I mean by that? The Bible is very specific on sexuality. It should only take place in the bounds of marriage between one male and one female. What happens now is that we have this promiscuous behavior, but now we added to that promiscuous behavior explained by sin, we added the technology to facilitate that promiscuous behavior. So if 200 years ago, anything that happened sexually outside of the bounds of marriage would have had huge consequences, visible consequences, technology nowadays makes it easier to facilitate promiscuous behavior. What do I mean by that? We now have antibiotics for SSDs. We now have contraception. We have all the technology to help you eradicate the consequences of promiscuous behavior. But now what politics does is that it offers the rationale to justify the promiscuous behavior. We don't only reason, but we now seek pleasure, which leads us to what's called woke culture. You see how they are all connected? Therefore, nowadays, such behavior, promiscuous behavior, becomes acceptable. This is the sexual revolution. Traditionally understood sexuality is the biblical sexuality. But the new normal brings you to eradicate that and accept what the culture offers you. So this is the first revolution. The second revolution is the language revolution. Let me read you a paragraph. Please follow this. Language matters because whoever controls the words controls the conversation. Because whoever controls the conversation controls its outcome. Because whoever frames the debate has already won it. Because telling the truth has become harder and harder to achieve in an America drowning in a different language. What do I mean by that? Can you see how language is being redefined? It was so obvious when, I can't remember the person who was asked to define what a woman is. Do you remember that? Why do you think they didn't want to give an answer to what a woman is? So what is a woman? You afraid to define it? Why do we have problems defining such an easy word? Now, this is what the culture does. Makes it difficult to define easy words because this is how you change an entire culture, by changing the words. What does identity mean? What does male mean? What does family mean? What is a family? În România am avut un vot ca să definim ce înseamnă familia. Este uniunea între bărbat și o femeie sau între doi parteneri? Voi nu mai votați asta, că deja e settled. Însă sunteți educați in the new settlement. Then we had the third revolution of social imagery. In the ancient times, the greater good was the political man who had the power to decide the future. And then we have the religious men, first century onwards, after Jesus. And then we had the economical man who always had something greater to work for. He had to work hard to provide for the family and be generous for those who couldn't work. But nowadays we have the psychological man, finding identity not in my outward activities, but in my inward order to do things for my personal happiness. If 50 years ago, the question when you chose a college was, what do you have to do with your life? The question nowadays is, what would you like to do with your life? Do you sense the difference? Today, the most important question is what gives you pleasure, not what do you have to do. But this is the days in which you are now being educated. What gives you pleasure? That's why the greater good is not nothing except for what gives me pleasure. So pleasure becomes the new normal. And the fourth revolution is Marxism, which had two key agendas: destroy God and destroy the family. How do you destroy God? First of all, create a conflict between religion and science. Then you had atheism, which is very militant. You have to be atheist and mad about it. It's not just enough to keep it for your own self, but you have to convince others. And then you had secularism, take everything that's religious out of the public square. And then you have to have all the schools and institutions of education that have to be secular. So God is no longer accepted. How do you destroy the family? Well, you destroy the family by destroying the idea of a female and destroying the idea of a male. How do you destroy the idea of a female? By creating feminism, by creating ideas of women of success, by having a conflict between career and motherhood. So all these put the women in front of a very difficult decision. What do I choose? Being independent, successful, with a career, or else. And how do you destroy the idea of a man? Well, sexual promiscuity, marriage is just a paper. You're free to have more than just one sexual partner. They invented the idea of open relationships. They created the metrosexual, and then they invited us to accept the homosexuals. And then we were told that fatherhood is no longer desirable. And this is where we are now. How do we speak about it? Kindly, in a gentle manner. Well, the Bible has some very harsh words about homosexuality. I'll just give you the Bible text. Genesis 19. Genesis 19, 4-5 gives you a very nasty story. And then we have Leviticus 18:22. Do not have sexual relationships with a man as one does with a woman. This is detestable. And then we have Leviticus 20:13. Then we had Romans 1:26. Then we have 1 Corinthians 6, 9-10. And then we have 1 Timothy 1, 9-10. Finally, if we go through all these Bible texts, which I invite you to do, but not now, the final word is that God forbids any sexual activity outside of the boundaries of marriage and clearly condemns homosexual activity in all texts of the Bible addressing it. The question is, what about me? What about the church? And what about my friend? How do I engage with people that are involved in the homosexual life? How does the church handle such topics? And how do I love my friend who is caught up in that sin? These are the three difficult questions to which we'll probably answer some other time. Amen. Val. If you have any difficult questions, Val is here to answer them. If you have any encouragements and good ideas, I'm here to take them from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad. So I guess for the next 30 minutes, we can take questions. If you guys have questions, you can ask them. If you want to, if it's easier to just maybe text them, can we list a phone number? I can give you my phone number if you want. It's 714-658-2302. If you guys can put it on the screen for them to 714-658-2302. Sometimes it's easier to just text questions. 714-658-2302. But if anybody has a question live and like to ask it, we'll take questions and we can try to answer them. If not, maybe we'll sing some songs and we can sing a song together while they think of questions. I also know there are people watching online. If anybody has questions from online, feel free to text me and I'll try to answer them.
Când vezi că drumul tău nu duce nicăieri, când șoapte vechi îți spun că nu mai poți să speri, dacă simți suflet și ți-e greu, nu descuraja, nu descuraja. Durerea ta poate să o aline, rătăcești, El e lângă tine. Vrei libertate, salvare, El îți dă eliberare în lănțul greu, mâna Lui îți ropește. În noaptea grea din jur lumina o căuta, și de aceleași lupte vechi răpus cădea. Am alergat la porți închise adeseori, fiindcă nu știam, fiindcă nu știam. Durerea ta poate să o aline când rătăcești, El e lângă tine. Vrei libertate, salvare, El îți dă eliberare în lănțul greu, mâna Lui îți ropește. Când ai credință, primești iertare. Iisus e calea, să spunem tuturor. Când ai credință, primești iertare. Iisus e calea, să spunem tuturor. Când ai credință, primești iertare. Iisus e calea, să spunem tuturor. Când ai credință, primești iertare. Iisus e calea, să spunem tuturor. Durerea ta poate să o aline când rătăcești, El e lângă tine. Vrei libertate, salvare, El îți dă eliberare în lănțul greu, mâna Lui îți ropește.
Vrei libertate?
Vrei libertate, salvare, El îți dă eliberare în lănțul greu, mâna Lui îți ropește. Mâna Lui îți ropește. Amin.
Beautiful song. And we got a bunch of questions, so thank you guys for paying attention and asking questions. So, first of all, I wanted to give an answer really, really quickly to Vlad's question, what is a woman? Just in case you are asked, what is a woman? It is a human being born with female reproductive parts. A human being that has two X chromosomes and is capable of carrying a baby. That is a woman. In a nutshell, right? That's a woman. Anyway, let's move on. First question I have: are we supposed to respect the pronouns they identify as? My answer would be no. If you want to tell the truth, if you want to live a life of truth and tell the truth, you have to tell the truth as it is, right? Somebody is a male, you call that person a he, a him, a male, right? If it's clearly a male. If it's a female, you have to use the pronouns for the female if you want to tell the truth. If you want to lie, it's up to you, but lying is a sin. So, I mean, yeah, that's my answer. I don't know, Vlad, do you have a different position on that? You have an illustration. Come up here and give us the illustration.
So I addressed this topic in Chicago for another church in Chicago. And when I finished the sermon, one of the guys in the audience stood up and he said, "Here's my story. I work as a bank teller, and one day someone who appeared to be a woman came at the desk and she asked to do certain things in the bank. And she showed her ID, and when I saw the ID, it was clearly a man. And I said, I'm sorry, but the picture does not resemble what I see, and I'm not sure I can go forward with your request. She started creating a scandal in the bank. The manager was called forward. The manager said, I'm sorry, but I recognize her, and she used to be Scott. But you didn't know that, so you're excused. I'll take it from here. So Scott was now a she, and she was helped in her situation. She left, or he left the bank, but then the manager took our friend, who is a believer in Jesus Christ, very kind person, took him for discussion. And the manager said, what should we do with you? Do you want to keep to your Christian standards and you choose to leave the bank? Or do you accept to work with whoever is in front of you and address them as they wish? We had 3 others before you, and they all had to be let go because of this. What do you choose? What do you choose? Okay. Încă. Pentru cei care ne urmăresc online, fratele zice, eu lucrez la bancă, și apoi a spus, încă. Now, what our friend said was the following. The Bible tells us to show love and kindness to everyone, but I'm expecting to be shown the same love and kindness from now on. What do you think of this? It goes both ways. Is it a wise answer or not? I think it's a very wise answer. But what I think is that we will have to learn and create policies for situations such as these. In the same group of people, another girl, she stood up and she said, I'm a teacher. By contract, I have to address the kids as they wish to be addressed, by their chosen pronouns. What should I do? Well, what should they do?
What?
I think this is going to be a very easy topic given what's coming next. The thing is, our forefathers died for their faith. There's a long way to being killed in America for your faith. But there will probably be a time when we will have to suffer for being Christians. And many, many generations before us didn't suffer for their faith. Those days are gone. Well?
Thank you, Vlad. So I guess we touched a chord here. So you crashed my phone. I had to restart it. So many messages I got. Let's see, in the same kind of ballpark, another question, should we be friends with people who are LGBTQ? Should we be friends with them?
I'm not sure why your pastor assumed I like blue. Is this a male thing or not? But should we be friends with people who are LGBTQ? What do you think? That's so easy to just pass the responsibility. Val?
You can talk to them. Somebody also asked if we should just walk away if they come to us. No, you can talk to them, but I wouldn't really be friends. I know that the logic is, oh, what if we can lead them to Christ? I mean, Jesus went after the prostitutes, yeah, but you're not Jesus. And usually what happens is, they will. I mean, you might, but I'm advising against it, especially if you're a teenager. Do not be friends with people who are living openly sinful lives. You can be acquaintances, you can talk to them, you can try to explain to them the truth, and you can love them by praying for them. But no, I don't think you should be friends with them.
I have a different stance on it. My question is, yes, we should have some introductory notions before we say whether we should be friends or not. And I think age is the first one, and then years of being a Christian and understanding the scriptures and being strong in your faith. All these are prerequisites to becoming friends with someone from that sort of group. The other question is, who will tell them the gospel if not someone who they want to befriend? And one assumption is that they know what they're doing is wrong. What if they don't? We should not assume that every homosexual knows that what he does is against the Bible. More and more people don't know about the Bible, don't know the Bible story, don't know about forgiveness, don't know about sin. And I think you can tell all these things without being friends with them. Yet, maybe the evangelism they need is something that's being given over hundreds of conversations, not over one conversation. So how do you do that with gentleness and respect over time without being friends? I don't know. I have 3 friends who are from the LGBT. 2 of them used to be homosexuals. Now they repented and they are Christians. One of them used to be Christian and now he's homosexual. They, except for their group, they usually live very lonely lives. Someone has to show them the gospel. If that's you or not, I don't know. But I pray that God will give you the wisdom to think clearly and guard your faith first and offer them the gospel second.
Thank you.
It's a nuanced answer.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, it depends on the age you're at. If you're a teenager, it's maybe harder, but...
There's a question, as a Christian, is it a sin to play Fortnite?
Yeah, is the sin? What do you think? Or video games in general?
I don't know what Fortnite is.
Oh, okay. It's a video game.
I know. It's a video game.
It's highly addictive from what I hear.
That's what I hear as well. I would rather answer more serious questions. If you play Fortnite, if you play any video game that leads you into sin, I'd say obviously don't play it. What you see in Fortnite, what you do in Fortnite may lead you to committing sin. If those 2 standards are checked, then I think you have the answer. You could just ask, is a sin to play football or basketball? For me, for at least a year, was a sin to play soccer. And I chose not to play. Why? Because I would become angry, aș jigni, aș supăra, aș vorbi urât și am decis să nu mai joc fotbal din cauza asta. The real football, I mean, soccer, okay. Este păcat să joci jocuri pe computer? Poate fi. Categoric poate fi. Trebuie să fie întotdeauna? Nu știu.
Yeah, especially if it becomes an idol for you. And I know that these games are highly addictive, like I said, and it can overtake you and your time. And I don't know if it's a sin necessarily, unless it becomes an idol, like Vlad was saying. Let's see, what else do we have here? Is it a sin to kiss before marriage? Again, this can lead you into all sorts of things. Kissing is just a foreplay to sex, and it can, become a very slippery slope and lead you to something you don't want to do before marriage. So better stay away from it. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Vorbind de atâtea lucruri triste care se întâmplă, cât de mult trebuie să le atragem atenția, cât de mult să vorbim despre ele, să nu uităm de frumusețea Domnului Isus și cât de minunat este El, să nu ne mai hrănim cu hrană otrăvitoare, mai mult decât cu cuvânt sfânt și curat care aduce bucurie și bilare în viațele noastre. Corect. Sora care a trimis mesajul acesta, Domnul să vă binecuvânteze. Cred că vă dați seama că nu ne place, nici mie, nici lui Vlad, să vorbim despre subiectul ăsta, dar în același timp trebuie să fim pregătiți și să ne fim echipați să discutăm despre el. Lumea vorbește foarte mult și tinerii noștri aud în fiecare zi mesaje despre subiectul acesta. Și dacă nu sunt echipați să răspundă într-un mod creștinesc, biblic, la problema asta, nu o să o poată să facă. Și de aceea, chiar dacă ne este și nouă scârbă să vorbim de lucrurile acestea, din când în când e necesar să o facem. Însă o facem tot pentru slava Domnului.
Și aș vrea să adaug aici, sunt multe lucruri scârboase care se întâmplă în lumea asta și sunt multe ispite și păcate între care trăim. Și faptul că nu vorbim despre ele nu înseamnă că știm cum să răspundem. Nu am ocupat săptămâni întregi, n-am luat predici, cu toate că desul poate că ar trebui. Suntem atât de nepregătiți să intrăm, să trăim în lumea asta și tocmai pentru că noi, ca și cultură românească, mă refer, nu adresăm lucrurile tabu. Ne mirăm că avortul e la cote alarmante, inclusiv între creștinii din bisericile baptiste, pentecostale și mai departe. De ce? Că nu se vorbește despre asta. Ne mirăm că relațiile sexuale în afara căsătoriei sunt la ordinea zilei în multe biserici. De ce? Că nu se vorbește despre asta. Sunt subiecte tabu. Când o să vorbim despre subiectele tabu, de dragul copiilor noștri, uitându-ne cu responsabilitate către subiectele astea, extrem de importante și grave. Ne ascundem după deget și nu vorbim despre ele. Și apoi ne mirăm, da, fiica mea, nu vorbim despre asta, că uite ce-a făcut. Păi, de ce a făcut? Că nu a știut.
Somebody sent a message that I think we should talk one-on-one about this. If you're here, come talk to us afterwards about your brother struggling with Christianity and not going the right path. I'd like to talk to you about this one-on-one. Hopefully we can help him. Let's see, what else we have? Can you be a married woman, have children, and a career at the same time?
Yes.
Hallelujah. Yes.
It would be difficult for me as I'm a man.
Yes. Yes.
But I think the answer is yes. It's obviously you're not able to have any career and have children because they just don't work together. And you know what I mean. But given the technology we have, given the lives we can live, given all the helps that we get, you can still have children, raise them in a Christian loving home and have a career. Not any career, but you can obviously still be functional in a career. Would it be preferable not to have to go to work and just be involved in your family? I think yes, but that's my personal opinion. I would. That's my personal preference.
That's the truth, Vlad.
But I would never condemn any woman who would like to build a career, as long as she can function as a mother and a wife.
Because you got to go home.
Because I have to still have a home to go to.
Yes. Yes, that's true. But the truth is that God has equipped women, especially to give birth to kids and to care for them and nurture for them in a way that men can't do it. We just don't have that. And God gifted women to do that. And that's why it's so beautiful to be able to raise your own kids. And if you have the opportunity not to have to go to work and have a career, I think it's a blessing. And but if you have to have a career, I think it's possible. It's hard. It's not ideal because somebody else will end up raising your kids. And then why did you make them?
Cred că discuția asta ar putea fi dusă și în direcția în care poate fi dusă într-o direcție care nu ajută răspunsului, și anume în momentul în care o femeie cu carieră este considerată păcătoasă. Și cred că ai o direcție greșită.
Absolutely. No, I'm not talking about
Nu
that.
vrem să ajungem acolo.
I'm not talking about that.
Dar cred că trebuie să fim foarte atenți la felul în care gândim termenii și cum discutăm lucrurile astea. Dacă vorbim despre păcate, răspunsurile sunt clare. Dacă vorbim de preferințe, acolo e cu totul altceva.
Preferințe, and also, okay, let's move on from this one. But I think, yeah, I gotta go home too. Yeah, no, I got a wife who is a mother and also has a career, and she's doing both amazingly. Another question, going back to the LGBT community: how do we treat our colleagues at work who are gay or transgender? I know this is a big issue, especially here and in California, where I come from. How do we treat our colleagues? What do we do? And again, we have to treat them lovingly, and we have to find ways to share the gospel with them. I mean, we don't hate them by any means. We just hate the sin, and we want to help them get out of there. I know it's difficult, and I think that's why we need a lot of prayer, a lot of fasting, and asking God to give us opportunities to speak the truth into their lives and to also be an example. And they'll notice. I'll guarantee they'll notice. If you are living your life as a Christian according to the Word of God, you're such an alien to these people. And you have a different fragrance, you have a different, something different about you, and eventually they'll notice. And I've experienced that several times. Just the fact that I don't use foul language in some environments makes me stand out. Everybody else does, and I don't. And eventually people notice, and they start asking questions, and you have an opportunity to share and to share Christ. So it's hard because, like Vlad was saying, it's become normative to be part of LGBT, and they expect to be celebrated and promoted. And if you don't, then you may be called a bigot or even a terrorist nowadays. But the message of the gospel hasn't changed, and our role has not changed, that of sharing that love of Christ and talking about there's something more than this life. There's something beyond this that we got to look forward to, and it's either punishment or eternal reward.
I'll take the last question. I'm going to college for nursing program, and I have heard many stories of children starting at age 4 transgendering. What should I do as a Christian nurse when I find out that one of my child patients are transgendering? Well, I think we will have to choose our careers very wisely. Otherwise, we will have to leave our jobs when these sort of issues are at stake. I'm not sure how, in your clear conscience, knowingly, you'll be able to do something such as this and be part of it. And this is not an easy answer. But let me ask you this. I want to get involved in politics. Should I go forward knowing how many lies are being told in politics? I want to go for such and such a job. And I think you have to make such decisions more and more often, given the way the laws are being changed in this country. So you will have to be ready to actually just quit. And it will be more often than it used to. So choose wisely.
Yeah, just
At
like,
the same time, if all Christians leave those settings, those positions, my question is, and I don't have an answer, how are we going to be the salt and the light in such context? I don't have a good answer for that.
yeah, it comes down to the first question we had: do we go by their pronouns? At some point, we have to make a decision which side we're on, and we have to be pretty firm on our decision. And when it comes to mutilating children, I think, that's just common sense that we shouldn't be a part of that. And it might have, it might mean you having to leave that job or, take a stand if you can. I know people who left jobs because they refused to be vaccinated for COVID, and they left jobs at hospitals because of that. They quit because they were forced to be vaccinated and they didn't want to. This is much more serious, I think, when it comes to mutilating a child. So it's coming to that point where we have to take a stand. Are we going to live in the light or not? As far as being a salt and light, sure. But I don't know. If you let the child be mutilated, what kind of salt are you? You got to be salt by taking a stand, I guess. So there's no easy answer there. You just got to decide which side you're on. And sometimes it requires sacrifice or huge sacrifices. We got a couple of questions about drugs, and I know we're almost out of time. I got 6 more minutes. Somebody asked why weed is bad if it's a plant and it's natural. It's bad to smoke it, it's not bad in itself. It's bad for you because it leads to addiction. And, it also alters your mind, and it has all sorts of things that makes you unable to pray or to have a relationship with God, just like alcohol does at some point. So that's why you shouldn't be taking drugs or smoke weed. Zahar doesn't alter your mind. Unless you get into a coma, but it doesn't, So let's not go there. Drugs are bad, yeah. And also, somebody asked, I have friends who does heavy drugs all the time. How do I help him? Well, if you're in this church, I really strongly advise you to talk about those friends with the pastors and with their family, it might require a more serious intervention if they do heavy drugs on your part and their family's part, and the church, could help. So they need help, basically. Do something for them.
Și aici aș vrea să spun un lucru delicat. Faptul că poți să pui întrebări pe un număr de telefon și rămâi anonim, cât de cât anonim, e foarte fain. Te ajută să fii deschis, te ajută să fii onest, te ajută să fii sincer. Însă nu te ajută în sensul în care s-ar putea să ai nevoie disperată de ajutor. Și să te ascunzi în spatele anonimatului, uitând că tu ai nevoie disperată de ajutor. Când vorbim despre droguri, când vorbim despre adicții, când vorbim despre lucruri extrem de grave și dificil de gestionat, dăm voie să spun că nu o să ieși din păcatul respectiv ascultând un răspuns de aici de la Amvon. Acolo e nevoie de multă rugăciune, e nevoie de deseori professional help, care s-ar putea să vină de la păstor, dar s-ar putea să vină prin păstor. Să vină cineva care să intervină mult mai adânc și mai abil în problema pe care o ai. Așa că dacă ai probleme de genul ăsta, fă-ți curaj și vină și vorbește personal cu cineva și cel mai probabil că o să fii respectat și ajutat. Dar trebuie să faci pasul ăla în care zici, vreau să fiu ajutat. Întrebările astea sunt bune, ajută, pornim conversațiile, însă sunt multe dintre ele care au nevoie de răspunsuri mult mai delicate și directe decât putem să răspundem aici la un amvon în 2-3 minute. La unele glumim, la altele nu-i nimic de glumă, cum au fost păcate adânci care ies greu din viața omului. Așa că deseori, și când vorbim de apologetică, rare ori vorbim despre rugăciune, dar deseori apologetica funcționează când ne rugăm. Așa că atunci când ai întrebări de genul ăsta, nu ezita și hai și vorbește cu fratele Sandu, cu fratele păstor de aici, cu cine știi că vine și îți oferă răspunsurile astea.
From the same categories as sin to wear jewelry, you have to ask your pastors if they think it's a sin. I mean, some churches think it is. Some churches, I'm not going to talk about that. Is it wrong to work hard because you want to be rich? The Bible says to work hard so you can make money so you can give to other people. So you can be generous.
Nu se referă la other people, la stat.
No, to be generous. To be generous. So if you want to work hard so you can be generous, do that. Can we do anything we want in heaven? If yes, what are those things? And if not everything, then what would we not be allowed to do in heaven? What do you think, Vlad? Can we do anything we want in heaven?
Când vom ajunge în cer, dorințele noastre vor fi în așa fel transformate, încât tot ce vom dori să facem este să-L glorificăm pe Dumnezeu.
Amin.
Așa că dacă mintea ta te duce într-o cu totul altă direcție, nu te amăgi că nu o să ajungi acolo. Nu o să ai problema asta. Randy Alcorn are o carte incredibilă, se numește Heaven, are vreo 500 ceva de pagini, în care răspunde la toate întrebările năstružnice ca și astea, vis-a-vis de cum o să fie în cer. El a avut timp să scrie și despre dacă bem sau nu cafea în cer, dacă pisica sau câinele ajunge cu noi și genul ăsta de întrebări. Cred că avem întrebări un pic mai importante de atât la care trebuie să răspundem. Însă când ajungem în cer, noi vom fi atât de îndrăgostiți de Domnul nostru, pe care îl vedem, încât nu o să ne mai intereseze ce vrem să facem noi.
O să avem alte dorințe, right? That's what you said.
Sper.
Yeah? We have glorified bodies, we'll have other desires, and we're not going to have this temptations that we have today. And we're just going to want to be with God and worship God. Somebody asked if it's wrong to be a lawyer as a Christian. No, by no means. It's not wrong. Be a lawyer if you can.
And Christians will need Christian lawyers more and more.
Right. Look at Brother Herimi Hetz, who's doing a great job defending our Constitution. And what? Oh, ok. Sora Mihaela, dânsa
Asta
este...
e pentru conferința de familie care o să aibă loc. Vă rog, nu mai adresați la conferințele greșite întrebările astea.
Yeah, what's your thought about schooling, with how these days are, with what they're teaching our children? What is the best choices to stay and let them learn and have these experiences without us something knowing or pull them out in homeschool? Thank you and God bless. Here we have different opinions because I homeschool my kids. Vlad is...
Da, eu trăiesc în România.
Tu trăiești în România. Different, yeah.
E o foarte mare diferență să-ți educi copiii în România în școala publică și în America în școala publică.
Right.
Atâta știu și eu că e o mare diferență. Nu sunt împotriva homeschooling-ului. Pentru familia noastră, în contextul în care trăim, nu a fost una dintre cele mai bune opțiuni.
Right.
Dar îi înțeleg pe cei care optează în direcția asta, cu atât mai mult în America, unde poți să faci asta. În România și cadrul legal e tricky. Dar știu că și în România sunt multe. Avem prieteni care fac homeschooling și îi admir pentru ce pot să facă și le urez succes. La fel cum mie mi-urez succes să-i învăț pe copiii mei că nu tot ce zboară se mănâncă la școală publică. Acolo e altfel de muncă pe care noi ca părinți să o depunem. Dar pentru audiența asta răspunsul cred că se așteaptă de la tine.
We believe that homeschooling is the right way to go, especially in our context in California, and here is the right way to go, even though you might have to make sacrifices. And my wife and I did that a while back. Our kids are teenagers now, and we decided she's gonna stay home and she's gonna be with them, and that's why we're poor. You know, we don't own a home, but I wouldn't give it. You know, I wouldn't trade what we've done for anything because our kids both love the Lord and for the Lord, we are blessed because of that, because we made that choice. So if you can do it, make that choice. Stay home and homeschool your kids. You won't regret it. Is getting a tattoo and wearing earrings a sin? It's the same question as the other one. The tattoo, I think Leviticus 19 says very clearly not to get tattoos. I know it's in the context of the Egyptian priests and stuff, but still, it's in the Bible. Not get a tattoo, and I think you shouldn't. But again, defer to I think David can talk a lot about that if we wanted to ask him. And a lot of these questions, actually, David. Sorry, I didn't. But I think we're kind of out of time. Yeah. pretty much all the other questions are in the same ballpark. So I think we touched on most of them. Thank you so much for asking questions. I think we're out of time. Brother Ghiță, if you want to come, dacă vrei să vii să închei cu rugăciune sau care e programul. Mulțumim.
Întâlnirea noastră se apropie de sfârșit și aș vrea să concluzionez tot ceea ce s-a vorbit astăzi și gândul meu s-a dus doar la câteva versete din a doua epistolă a lui Pavel către Timotei, capitolul 4, versetul 3 și 4, care spune următoarele lucruri: căci va veni vremea când oamenii nu vor putea să sufere învățătura sănătoasă, ci îi vor gâdila urechile să audă lucruri plăcute și își vor da învățături după poftele lor. Își vor întoarce urechea de la adevăr și se vor îndrepta spre istorisiri închipuite. Despre astfel de vremuri în care trăim noi astăzi vorbește Apostolul Pavel aici și uite că noi astăzi suntem în astfel de vremuri. Întrebarea este ce să facem și cum să procedăm. Avem noi puterea ca să schimbăm cultura, avem puterea ca să schimbăm vremurile sau tot ceea ce se întâmplă în jurul nostru? Răspunsul este nu. Noi nu avem o astfel de putere, ci Biblia ne spune ce trebuie să facem și cum trebuie să trăim în astfel de vremuri și versetul 5 spune: dar tu, adică cel credincios, cel care îl urmează pe Domnul Iisus Hristos, cum să te comporți în astfel de vremuri? Fii treaz în toate lucrurile, rabdă suferințele, despre ceea ce se vorbea mai înainte, că s-ar putea să vină vremuri ca să plătim cu suferința pentru credința noastră pe care o avem în Domnul Iisus Hristos. Fă lucrul unui evanghelist, adică du cuvântul lui Dumnezeu celor din jurul tău, indiferent de vremurile și timpurile în care trăim, și împlinește-ți bine slujba. Iată aceste condiții pe care le pune cuvântul lui Dumnezeu înaintea noastră. Îmi place o altă traducere, spune atât de minunat: tu însă trebuie să stai treaz și să fii cu ochii în patru în fața acestor pericole. Să nu-ți fie frică de suferință pentru Domnul, dacă va trebui să suferi pentru credința ta în Domnul Iisus. Adu-i pe alții la Hristos, nu lăsa nimic nefăcut din ceea ce trebuie să faci. De aceea ne rugăm ca și întâlnirea din ziua aceasta să fie una pentru zidirea noastră spirituală, pentru învățătura noastră, pentru ca să ne întărim în Domnul și credința noastră să fie mai puternică în continuare. Aș vrea la încheierea acestei conferințe, rog familia repede să mai laude pe Domnul cu două cântări, după care îl rog pe fratele Pavel să încheie întâlnirea noastră.
Doamne, mare ești.
O, Doamne, mare ești, mare e mila Ta și asupra noastră mereu o revești. Iubirea Ta simțim pe a noastră cale. la tine vin. Tărie n-am, sunt slab, tu să-mi fii sprijin. Viața mi-o poți schimba în cer senin. O, Doamne, mare ești, mare e mila ta, ce-asupra noastră mereu o reflești. Iubirea ta simțim pe-a noastră cale. În tine am găsit, în tine am găsit un adăpost.
Iisus Hristos, sprijinul și adăpostul nostru. Și haideți ridicați pe picioare la ultimul cântec, un cântec de bucurie, pentru că atunci, într-o zi, când viața va înceta, noi vom zbura în împărăția lui Iisus Hristos. Aș vrea să se și afișeze: eu voi zbura în glorie într-o zi, nimeni nu ne va opri, noi vom zbura în împărăția Domnului nostru Iisus.
Într-o zi când viața va înceta, eu voi zbura către malul mării de cristal. Eu voi zbura,
Eu voi zbura în glorie, plin de bucurie.
eu voi zbura în glorie, eu voi zbura. Într-o zi nimeni nu mă va opri, eu voi zbura. Umbra vieții când se va topi, eu voi zbura. Deslegat ca o pasăre voi fi, eu voi zbura. Eu voi zbura în glorie, eu voi zbura. Într-o zi nimeni nu mă va opri, eu voi zbura. Bucuroși în cer ne vom vedea, noi vom zbura. Sfărâmat lanțul rece va cădea, eu voi zbura. Eu voi zbura în glorie, eu voi zbura. Într-o zi nimeni nu mă va opri, eu voi zbura.
Curând spre cerul vom porni.
În curând spre ceruri vom porni, noi vom zbura.
Unde numai bucurii vor fi.
Unde numai bucurii vor fi, noi vom zbura.
Noi vom zbura în glorie.
Noi vom zbura în glorie, noi vom zbura. Într-o zi
ziua aceasta. Mulțumim pe cei pe care Dumnezeu a ales să se folosească. Vlad, Valer, ne rugăm din toată inima ca Dumnezeu să binecuvânteze slujirea și pe voi ca frați slujitori. Mulțumim familiei repede. Mulțumim pentru că ați ales să fiți cu noi. Mulțumim tuturor dumneavoastră, celor care sunteți prezenți în locul acesta. Îmi dau seama că întrebările sunt foarte multe. Și probabil că una dintre următoarele conferințe care o să le avem, o să vorbim mai puțin. O să vă dăm posibilitatea să puneți întrebări mai multe, încercând să răspundem detaliat și având toată libertatea să ajutăm. Pentru cei care au spus întrebările și vă frământă, vă confruntați cu anumite situații. Eu, fratele Ghiță, fratele David, Petrică, suntem aici ca să vă ajutăm. Suntem aici fără să vă judecăm. Suntem aici să încercăm scriptural, biblic, să vă fim de folos. Aș vrea să vă rog ceva. Oricare ar fi situația cu care te confrunți, nu te îndepărta de biserică. Nu te îndepărta de Domnul, cu cât pleci mai departe, cu atât mai greu să te întorci. Cu cât mai mult te adâncești, cu atât mai grea e salvarea. De aceea vă îndemn din toată inima să rămâneți alături de casa Domnului. Să rămâneți alături de noi. Să cereți ajutor. Să vă ajutăm ca să ne bucurăm mai târziu împreună. În momentele care urmează, va urma să fim la masă. Nu vă uitați că sunteți puțini în ziua aceasta. Nu mă aștept. Apologetica nu e o lecție ușoară. Nu este un curs, nu este... dacă ar veni cineva să ne spune cât de des putem să ne pupăm înainte de căsătorie, ar fi plin aici. Noi trebuie să vorbim altceva. Astăzi altceva am învățat. Cum putem să apărăm? Care sunt întrebările și răspunsurile corecte? De aceea Domnul Iisus Hristos știa lucrurile acestea și spune bisericii și o numește turmă mică. Nu mă așteptam să fie mai mulți, mă bucur mult pentru fiecare în parte care ați ales să fiți cu noi și cei care ne-au urmărit online. Și ei au fost un pic mai mulți ca noi care suntem în sală, dar ne bucurăm pentru că au fost alături de noi și ne rugăm ca Dumnezeu să-i binecuvânteze. De pe toate părțile, din biserici multe care ne cunosc, ne-au urmărit și ne rugăm ca Dumnezeu să lucreze și în viețile lor. Aș vrea să avem un timp binecuvântat la masă. Dar înainte ca să mergem la masă, aș vrea să vă aduc la cunoștință că familia repede, mai aveți CD-uri? Ok, mai au CD-uri tot cei care doresc să procure un CD, 2, 3, 4, 5. Și dacă vreți să faceți o poză, $5 poza cu familia repede, nu pierdeți ocazia, pentru că pleacă din mijlocul nostru și nu o să aveți ce să puneți pe Facebook, vă spun cinstit. Același lucru și cu Vlad. Nu, el o să mai vină. De așa că îl primim. Fratele Vlad are cărți și el este aici cu dragostea să tot cei care citesc în română să poată procura o carte. Dacă nu puteți bine, cumpărați-o pentru tata vostru și pentru mama. Iar dacă nici tata, nici mama nu citește, vă rog să cumpărați 2 cărți, le aduceți la birou, la păstorul bisericii. Eu am să le citesc. Ok? Ne-am înțeles. Mulțumim încă o dată, ne rugăm din toată inima ca Duhul Domnului să fie cu voi, să vă călăuzească spre casă. Și cei de la Rientul și cei de aici, fraților, tinerilor, dragilor, cu tot dragul vă stăm la dispoziție să vă slujim. Haideți să ne purtăm ca o familie în Hristos, încercând să răspundem nevoilor voastre și Dumnezeu să vă binecuvânteze. Tată, ne plecăm înaintea Ta. Mulțumim așa de mult pentru ziua aceasta, pentru harul Tău nespus de mare, pentru dragostea care ne înconjure în fiecare zi. Și aș vrea să-ți mulțumim și pentru această întâlnire, pentru vorbitorii Tăi pe care Te rugăm să-i binecuvântezi, pentru cei care ne-au binecuvântat prin cântare, Te rog să-i binecuvântezi și pe ei. Iar mai mult ca orice, Doamne, Te rugăm să binecuvântezi și întrebările care au fost puse, întrebări care au nevoie de răspuns. Eu nu știu cât pot să răspund la aceste întrebări, dar Tu, prin puterea Duhului Tău cel Sfânt, poți să răspunzi și să dai și rezolvare. Pentru aceasta mă rog. Să binecuvântezi în continuare, Doamne, și darul de mâncare, să binecuvântezi călătoria tinerilor spre casă și vrem uniți în Tine să trăim în continuare spre slava numelui Tău. Amin. Amin. Fiți binecuvântați de Domnul.